So I wanted to talk about, like you said, you've spoken about breathing techniques, you've spoken about visualization, meditation. So when you were young, it sounded like you were really introduced to those very, very young. What sort of breathing techniques were they? What was the purpose for them? When did you use them? If you could talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. So I think when I was young, I would just do whatever anyone would tell me. So if someone's like, oh, before you do a dive in training, practice for a competition, take 3 deep breaths, or like take a breath, hold it for 3 seconds, breathe it out and see how you feel. And like, I don't know, again, I didn't really take it seriously back then because I didn't understand the benefits. But as I've gotten older and I've even had a period of competitions where my sports psych at the time, a different one, sort of spoke through a sort of visualization series that I would then listen to before a competition, and it was pretty much walking me through a perfect dive. So from when I talk to my coach before the dive, and then I'm walking up the stairs waiting behind while other people are still going, and then I walk out, they announce my name, I stand on the board, I do my dive, I hit the water, and it's a good dive. So I actually found that probably one of the most beneficial things that I have done over my career, and I don't necessarily listen to that all the time now, but that visualization process I still go through.
How often would you do that? How often would you potentially?
Well,
when would you do that?
Yeah, so leading into a competition, I try and visualize myself in the facility that competition is going to be in, probably for like 2 weeks beforehand, and then like the night before a competition, the morning of a competition. But I also go off how I feel. So if I am feeling more nervous or like a bit distracted, that's generally when I'll make sure I do it quite often. But at the same time, like, I think I should always be doing it more. And there's some athletes that, visualize their dives every night. But for me, again, I think that'd make me go crazy because it's too much for me. But figuring out what has worked for me has been an interesting process, and just trying different things. And even sometimes, I've gone through periods of 6 months where I've listened to done a 5-minute breathing technique at nighttime or in the morning. Or another thing, like, in diving, the most nervous I get is when I'm standing on the board, everything's silent, they've just announced my name, because at training there's always noise around, there's always distraction, you're never really in that just all eyes on me until you're in that competition. So now my process, like, I behind the boards before I go, I hold my breath and then I breathe it all out and like try and flush out just like the nerves, but I also accept that they're going to be there. And then right before I go, I just say something like, I've got it, or just like some confident to make me believe that it's going to be good. Because again, I've had experience where I'm standing on the board and I think, I'm going to balk, or I'm going to do a bad dive, and I'll do a bad dive because I've just told myself that. So trying to flip that now and just be aggressive and confident is what works for me now.
I'm super interested in, so all of this is to manage your nerves and fears, basically, which is incredible. And I think that's where most people will probably find the benefit within that for them. And if you haven't tried visualization, breathing techniques, then I really recommend giving it a go to anyone that's listening, and especially for harnessing those nerves. And again, you spoke about visualizing that perfect performance, and ultimately it becomes sort of habitual. Like, I probably again now take it for granted that even though I'm playing at a semi-pro level or amateur level, I take for granted what I was doing as a pro, that I'd spent hours of practice doing, and now it's ingrained, it's in there. And you're talking about, well, if I get I'm not almost thinking technically, I'm just in the game, I'm in the flow, it's
like muscle memory. Your body now knows what to do, so you've practiced it.
And you have to rehearse it in your mind. Like, you have to rehearse in your mind. And I think for you, I just can only imagine all eyes are on you at one moment, and you're standing there and harnessing your nerves, and that fear is such a powerful thing. And I think breathing techniques and visualization give you that physical thing that you can do. Because you said there about accept your nerves are there, and that was the bit of advice that I had for when I made my T20 debut. So my 2020 debut was on Sky. It was on Sky Sports, on Fox Sports over here. It was live on TV, thousands of people watching, and I was starting the game. I was opening the bowl, and it went horrifically. And I remember that I was just so immersed in everything that was going on outside externally, and I'd forgotten the process, and I'd forgotten the internal. And that's what visualization, breathing techniques, and practicing that being present allows you to be refocusing on that moment that you're in. And before the game, I'd seen a psychologist and said, do you know what, I'm really nervous about this game. I'm shitting myself. And he said, well, you're going to get nervous, but just accept your nerves. So I was like, okay, that's not bad advice. Like, I will accept them. But then for me was missing the next step. Yeah. The next step, which was when we're practical.
I've accepted them. What do I do with them now?
Yeah, now I've got them. I'm holding on to them. Yeah. What do I physically do with them? And we as athletes, and do you know what, not even just athletes, just human beings, we're physical creatures. We almost need a how-to guide in how to put these nerves aside. Yes, I can accept they're there, but now I'm aware of them. Yeah. Geez, what do I do with them? And how do I physically deal with it? And what you were talking about there is that physical draining of all of that adrenaline and bringing yourself into a more parasympathetic state to recognize that you're making logical decisions. Otherwise, you'll make an emotional one.
Yeah, and